Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So Mohnish Pabrai has bought a Japanese company. Okay, now this turned up just within the last couple of weeks. I think I first heard about it on Twitter. The person I heard about it on Twitter directed me to Ticker Terminal, which is a fantastic application for figuring out, what super investors are buying outside of the U.S. So I'm just going to blow this up for a second here so we can see a bigger picture. But you can see here, these are all of Mohnish Pabrai's kind of known equity positions around the world. You can see the first two are his biggest. Those are in the U.S. But this is a recent one that just showed up, Shinoken. Okay, Shiniken in Japan. A little over $20 million of equity held in Shiniken. And you can see this was first reported on December 31st, so less than a month ago. And it had to be reported because he owns more than 5% of the shares outstanding, 5.5%. So that's what Pabrai bought recently, okay? Shiniken. Now, let's try to get a better feel of, what does Shiniken do? How much of a value might it be? So Pabrai, I think just last week, maybe it's been 2 weeks ago now, I don't know, time is kind of distorted lately for some reason. Maybe because I have a 4-month-old. So Pabrai mentions a Japanese company in his talk through the Manual of Ideas Best Ideas conference. And that talk has actually been made available to the public. If you find Manual of Ideas Twitter feed, you can find that talk through there. And Pabrai just had a few things to say about this Japanese company that he recently invested in. He said, I found a company in Japan I like a lot. It's a great compounder. It's got a great manager, and it's extremely undervalued. Okay? Those are the things he said about this Japanese company, which I'm pretty sure is Shiniken. He says, it's the increase in value over the years which is so apparent that is interesting, right? That's what makes this really interesting to Pabrai, the increase in value over the years. So let's try to get a sense for what he's seeing in Shiniken. Now, there's a few different write-ups across the web that are pretty good. This guy, Jeremy Raper, so I follow him on Twitter, definitely worth a follow. Back in December of 2019, he did, I believe it was a podcast episode with Eric Schleien, okay? And he kind of pitched Shiniken in that podcast episode. And here's kind of his quick pitch, right, in December of 2019. It's a small cap Japanese, part real estate developer, part real estate management / recurring revenue stream business. It was unfairly sold down last year, which would have been 2018, to 4 times earnings per share, okay, less than 4 times earnings per share. Due to a temporary dislocation just in the development segment. We'll get a little deeper into that with some of these deeper write-ups. Business has since stabilized and real estate development likely returns to growth next year. Let's see. Business has re-rated to a 6.5 earnings per share, but fair value on a sum of the parts basis is closer to 11x. So there's still a lot of room to run as of December 2019. Aligned management, 30% ownership, right? That's insider ownership, 30%, which is quite strong. They do occasional buybacks. They pay a decent dividend. And it's, so as we found out, it's a Japanese small cap. There are limited English disclosures, okay? So I believe Jeremy lived in Japan for a number of years. He's pretty fluent in Japan. So that gives him a huge edge to really understand this business because, Currently, there aren't a lot of the disclosures that have been translated to English. Now, with the state of technology these days, it's probably not super complicated to have those converted into English. But things get lost in translation. It's trickier for sure to go about it that way. So this is the full write-up we're going to look at from August of 2019. Unfortunately, Jeremy put out an update. This update was given in February of 2020. So that's just an overview. And then this write-up in Value Investors Club is even more recent, from October of 2020. So let's take a peek at these. Shinoken, this is what value looks like. So it compares the S&P 500 to the index in Japan, just to show kind of where the market is at. It's compelling how low Japan is compared to the U.S. But let's get into Shiniken. So Tokyo-based real estate developer focused mostly on apartments, low-rise buildings, 2 to 3 floors. Now, let's get into what Pabrai was talking about, the increase in value over time. I'll let you guys read about the business segments on your own if you want to go deeper into the company. But what's really interesting to me is this here. Let the financials do the talking. Over the last 9 years, Shiniken has compounded book equity at 42% compound annual growth rate, growing book value from less than 2 billion Japanese yen to 41 billion. Okay, a 20x increase in 9 years, while generating average pre-tax return on invested capital of 20%. So, exemplary. Those are fantastic numbers. And you see the trend here of book equity. I mean, what a beautiful curve, right? Compounded growth curve there. You'd expect to pay a substantial premium to book for a company compounding at 40%. But you see this price to book, right? It has crashed between kind of 2014 and 2019. It's just dropped off a cliff. And it seems like a lot of that has to do with what's been happening in the real estate industry in Japan with some other players. There's been some nefarious activity with other big players in this market that Shiniken is operating in. There's been a number of damaging scandals, none of which have anything to do with Shiniken, but, it's been that, red mark has been passed on to Shiniken by investors in Japan. So take a look at this, guys. It's a fantastic write-up. It's a long write-up. But let's just take a look at the update real quick to see how Jeremy is seeing the value having changed from, the 6 months later from when that first write-up was done. So at the time, the stock was trading at less than 4 times earnings, less than 3 times enterprise value to EBIT, and at a considerable discount to replacement cost due to the overhang of a number of scandals. Okay. Today, Shiniken has re-rated more than 50% and now trades at approximately 6 times last 12-month earnings. But given the changes in the industry and how Shiniken's business model has continued to evolve, it is a much better risk to reward today and still massively undervalued. I think a conservative fair value today is somewhere around 2,500 Japanese yen per share. Basically another double from here, right? So, and it's even, I think it's even lower than it was in February of 2020 now. Let's give it a quick look here. So Shiniken, I'm looking this up in ticker terminal. So we can see this is back in February. It's actually a little lower today than it was in February, okay? It's at 11.55 now. So it's potentially more than half off, a greater than 50% discount to fair value. Of course, this is one man's estimate of what the intrinsic value is. Do your own research on this. But it's a great starting point. It gives me encouragement to really roll up my sleeves and dig into this company. So, Jeremy just provides some updates based on what happened in that 6 months to kind of update his investment thesis. So check that out. I will link to both of these in the description. And then finally, we have the Value Investors Club write-up. This was when the price was a little lower than it is today, 1087 Japanese yen. But of course, it hasn't gone up too much. It's still potentially more than 50% off if you value it at around 2,500. So not your typical cash hoarding, low return on invested capital Japanese value trap, just the opposite, in fact. Emerging from the storm of the 2018 wave of scandals, and more recently from the pandemic, two catalysts should help apartment and condo sales to rebound. Just as importantly, Shinoken's base of recurring revenues have continued to grow seemingly unaffected by these headwinds. And these recurring earnings are now over half of EBIT based on last 12-month results. All of this can be yours for under 5 times future, maybe next 12 months, future 12 months earnings per share. So, seeing this recurring revenue, right? I know that that's so important to Pabrai, to have that recurring revenue, because those tend to be quite critical to the long-term compounders, having that recurring revenue stream. So again, take a look at this write-up if you're interested in this. I'm not going to say too much more about it. But I am intrigued by it. Guys, I'm still on the fence in terms of whether I want to invest in Japan versus investing in smaller companies in the U.S. Pabrai, because he's running $500 million, he can't go too small, right? Because if it's too small, it's not going to move the needle for the Pabrai funds. But this is a pretty small company. Let's see what their market cap is. Let's see if we can get the market cap in US dollars to make it easier. So market cap 371 million. That's pretty small, okay? I don't know that we need to be looking too much smaller than that to, improve performance. So I guess my big issue is there's so much about the Japanese culture that I have no idea about. And either it would take a whole lot of work for me to get comfortable with this investment, or I'd really have to be blindly cloning Pabrai. And I don't have a huge issue with blindly cloning Pabrai at this point, especially when you consider, he's really shifting over to focusing on these long-term compounders, right? If I'm blindly following him kind of outside of the US, and I even have a 50% hit rate on, which companies he's really right about, which companies are these great long-term compounders, that is going to be a fantastic outcome for me. Just, getting half of those to hit. So, it's something I'm considering. It's something I'm, kind of weighing what to do with this one. There was also a talk in Manual of Ideas just a couple weeks ago where this was their idea. This was their Best Ideas 2021, Shinoken. I think it was Mike Kruger, okay? And he runs a fund. He really got into the details on Shiniken as well. So if you can access that, if you have access to Manual of Ideas, check that one out as well. That's going to give you, 3 really strong write-ups for this company to really sink your teeth into it and try to understand it better. At the moment, I'm not ready to pull the trigger on this one yet. It's something I'm thinking about. I do have access to it through Interactive Brokers. Not too long ago, I signed up for an Interactive Brokers account, and I can buy in Japan through Interactive Brokers. So, it's something I'm considering. I wanted to throw it out to you guys. Maybe you guys will do some work on it and come back and we can have some engagement in the comments about what you guys are seeing with this company. But certainly Pabrai seems to be quite bullish. He says it's extremely undervalued. We don't know exactly when he bought. I'm guessing, it wasn't too much lower than where it's at right now. I'm assuming it was fourth quarter that he bought, if we see the disclosure from December 31st. So the lowest price he could have gotten in the fourth quarter is somewhere around a little over 1,000 Japanese yen. So anyway, guys, just wanted to share all of that. Let me know what you think of Shinoken, what your thoughts on it are. I am very curious to hear from you. And like I said, I will link to all of these resources for you guys in the description. So look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.